I'm so grateful to all of you who have been here, exploring and practicing. And even if today is your first time joining us, really thank you for joining in practice together. This is it, folks. This is the last of the series. So it's liberation or bust. It's really been so precious and valuable to explore with you. So let's settle in. I invite you to take a few deep cleansing breaths to release any tension that may be present. You might be able to hear the sound of rain on the skylight in my office. And to turn attention inward into sensations in the body, turning toward your state of heart and mind. Let's be deliberate about observing and feeling what is present with a quality of attention that does not evaluate or judge, that is spaciously loving, just touching with love whatever arises. When I find it challenging to access that loving quality, or when I resist it, I find it can be helpful to think of somebody who at any point has looked at me with love. Just a moment of being perceived lovingly. And maybe we can see ourselves through those loving eyes, through that gaze. Each day this week, we've been exploring various rituals of the Seder as opportunities for a direct experience of liberation by taking us into the inner places of constriction, observing them and feeling them through the eyes of clear, loving, non-judgmental, spacious awareness. Through the gaze of divinity. I've been reading an incredible book by Lama Rod Owens called Love and Rage, The Path of Liberation Through Anger. And it describes the mindfulness liberation project in language that I find quite accessible. And he frames his mindfulness practice through his experience as a Black gay man living in a racist and homophobic culture. And he says, we have to understand that at some point, we have to develop an attitude of needing to love everything, especially what is unlovable. Everything has to be loved if you're interested in getting free. I'm talking about free from duality. I'm talking about freedom from binary thinking. I'm talking about freedom from always being triggered. I'm talking about freedom from the ways in which I'm deeply attached to ego. Freedom from always performing for other people. Freedom from always living outside my body. That kind of freedom, coming back into wholeness, coming back into privileging what I need. I'm not saying that my needs are better than those of other people, but rather that my needs deserve to be in consideration as I'm considering other people's needs. If we don't have that spaciousness, if we're not taking care of the hurt, then we're going to be very limited in the choices we make. So we're practicing so that our choices can be real choices. Choices that lessen suffering and increase compassion and care. And the moment in the Seder that I want to explore with you today is the moment when we choose to open the door to Elijah. At this moment in the Seder, we've moved through the story of the Exodus. We've moved from slavery to freedom, from the experiences of degradation to a state of praise. We've eaten matzah, the bread of freedom. We've just eaten an enormous meal together. We've offered our gratitude, and we pour the fourth of the 4 cups. We pour the cup for Elijah, and we open the door to Elijah, Eliyahu Hanavi, who's the harbinger of the coming of the Messiah, of complete, collective, ultimate liberation. And right in this moment, we say these words, Shfoch chamatcha al hagoyim asher lo yaducha. Pour out your wrath upon the nations that did not know you. Or we could say upon those who lack da'at, consciousness of you, and upon the kingdoms that did not call upon your name, since they have consumed Yaakov and laid waste his habitation. Pour out your fury on them, and their fierceness, and the fierceness of your anger shall reach them. You shall pursue them with anger and eradicate them from under the skies of Yud-He-Vav-He, of pure presence. Kat, you can remove the text. So I'm so curious about this moment. We're opening the door to liberation, and what is anger doing here? When we're free, when we're about to move liberation out into the world. And for years, I hated this passage and I skipped it. We skipped it at our Seder, or we read an alternative reading about love. But this year I'm hearing it with a very different wisdom. Before we can step into liberation fully, honestly, responsibly, we have to attend to anger. We have to attend to anger. Kat, if you could pull up page 22. This is another section from Lama Rod Owens. He says, each time I saw the anger, I attempted to deny it. I was still attempting to tell myself that I wasn't angry. There was a lot that I was angry about, and I began to realize as I continued my meditation practice that I was doing the work of activism, organizing, and attempting to create change because I was pissed off at the world. I was deeply pissed off at being born into this body. Deeply pissed off at the system of racism. The system of homophobia. I was pissed off at my trauma and woundedness. I was pissed at all these acts of violence that were perpetually laid upon my body and mind. None of this was fair. Kat, you can take down the text. I think when we're in the thick of pain and hurt and fear, it often doesn't feel safe enough to feel anger. Or it's become so automatic to be nice and good instead of angry. Or we turn anger against ourselves. Or it consumes us. But once the danger is over, or there's some room around it, and we start to live into a different reality, there might be room to notice and feel all that has been wrong and unfair and brutalizing. So at this moment of the Seder, we give over our anger into the hands of the divine, into expansive, loving awareness, asking God to be angry on our behalf, as it were. At this moment in the Seder, held in that spaciousness, we can feel anger and listen to it. Listen to the wisdom of protest that it communicates. That something is wrong, has been wrong, that there is hurt and injustice and heartbreak to attend to. We can't skip over the anger. There's another moment in Lama Rod Owens' book that he says, I had to learn to turn my attention back to the hurt, to the woundedness beneath the anger. Taking care of the woundedness was the path out of the suffering. So I want to explore something with you that feels a little bit risky, but we'll do it with care and a lot of attention. I want to try a growling rage meditation. Sounds like fun, doesn't it? It was so lovely. Last month, Rebecca Schisler was leading a week-long intensive connected to Purim, and she had us do a laughing meditation, inviting us to just start laughing, even if it felt artificial and forced, and then noticing that as we were doing it, that laughter and delight started to move freely, and we could actually tap into the joy that's always been there. Well, I want to see what happens if we do that with growling and snarling and yelling together. And you can turn off your camera if you feel self-conscious. But I'm going to invite us to unmute, and we'll growl together for about a minute. And then I'll bring us to a close and invite us to enter into silent practice, being with whatever arises. And it might be surprising what comes up. Laugh. We haven't started yet. Hold on. Hold on. Because I also want to make sure that this is safe, and I want to give some other options. But we'll do this for about a minute, and then to be present with, in that expansive, loving awareness with whatever arises. I think I was muted there. If this is not the right practice for you, if this will be triggering, or if you start to try it and it becomes overwhelming, please mute the group. I hope you'll stay with us. And, I invite you to look at your surroundings if you become overwhelmed, to notice what's lovely around you, to connect with some grounding touch, to notice sensations in the body that are pleasant or neutral, and we'll come back together. And another option is to not do the growling bit, but just to offer the question, is there anger here? Is there anger here? And see what arises. And not to follow down the path of a story, but to see what arises in sensations in the body. So shall we try this?
Okay, so you know what? So you have to recognize the jealousy.
So now everyone, Kat will mute the volume. Turn our attention toward whatever has arisen. What anger is present here? What anger is present here? Can you bring it into the loving, spacious embrace, the clear seeing of loving awareness? what anger might be here. Can you touch this anger, this heartbreak, this numbness, this hurt, whatever is here, with the light of wide, loving, spacious awareness? And if aversion arises, welcome that too. Include that too in this wide embrace, in this clear, loving seeing. Lama Rod Owens writes, our being pissed is an indicator that there's something off. However, it is love that directs and motivates me, because it's love for myself and for others that helps maintain the humanity of everyone involved in my work to challenge injustice. When I'm rooted in love, anger reveals itself as trying to point us to our hurt. I'll read that again. When I'm rooted in love, anger reveals itself as trying to point us to our hurt. And when I'm taking care of my hurt and loving at the same time, the energy of anger becomes an energy that helps me cut through distractions and focus on the work that needs to be done. This is Olam Haba. This is the world to come. This is the vision of the messianic, holistic, liberated world, which is the world unfolding in this very moment. This is opening the door to Elijah. This is the door we open and walk through which we meet all of humanity, all beings. This is the place from which everything is possible in healing and love. Not as spiritual bypassing, not from, 1,000 feet, but in and through the hurt and the anger and the injustice, to respond with clear, loving, spacious hearts. Can you feel into what that might feel like? The possibility of that in your body. Not as something that you need to create, but that is innately there. It is our divine nature that gets covered up and distorted and wounded in our connection to it, but is innately always right here. We're going to close our practice with the song that we've been singing all week. B'chol dor vador, in every generation, anu chayavim lirot et atzmenu. We make the commitment to relate to ourselves, ki'ilu yotzim min hametzar, as if we are already in motion out of the constriction. And I want to offer it and invite us to sing or let it wash over you, really as a prayer for our liberation, every one of us, as a prayer for the healing and liberation that comes through us out into the world, for all. B'chol dor vador, anu chayavim lirot et atzmenu ke'ilu yotzim min hametzar. בכל דור ודור אנו חייבים לראות את עצמנו כאילו יוצאים מן המצר. אנו חייבים לראות את עצמנו כאילו יוצאים מן המצר. בכל דור ודור אנו חייבים לראות את עצמנו כאילו יוצאים מן המצר. חייבים לראות את עצמנו כאילו יוצאים מן המצר. לראות את עצמנו כאילו יוצאים מן המצר. Thank you for your practice, everyone. May we truly, deeply be blessed to support each other in this beautiful, challenging, incredible work of liberation for ourselves and for all beings. Amen.
Miriam, bows to you for really extraordinary leadership and teaching and introduction to practice and courageous teaching and practice, especially today. Just much gratitude to you from all of us. Friends, we seal the practice as we do each day, offering an opportunity for those of you who are in mourning or observing yahrzeit, or if it's your custom to join the mourner's Kaddish, to do so. And if you're not reciting Kaddish, please stay present and incline your attention and your love and support towards those who are invited to put the name or names of anyone you're honoring, remembering today in the chat box now, or after we recite Kaddish. And we thank Kat for sharing the words of the Mourner's Kaddish on the screen. If you're reciting them, I invite you to join me by rising in body or in spirit now, and you can unmute as we recite the words together. Yitgadal, Yikadash, Merabah, Yomad, Yivra, Chayechon, Yomechon, Chayed, V'chol
Israel,
Be'alat,
Allah is mindful. Yehishme
Shmei
Rabba
Rabba
Mivra,
Mivarach,
Allah
Me'amaka,
Itbarak Yeshua, Itbar mindfulness,
Say,
Itdar Lev Yisrael, Itakita, Elamim,
Elami, Kol Birchata V'Shabbat,
Kata
Ata
Benesama,
V'Chalacha,
Ta Amiran
Mimamad,
Rabba
Shmeinu,
Minshama,
Ish Mama Rabba
Yama
Miriam,
Yamai,
Amen.
Shalom,
El,
Israel,
Shalom Bimama, Shalom
Shalom
Bimama,
Bimama, Bikuya, say Shalom,
Israel,
Alenu
Peru,
Bel, Kol
Amen.
Yoshvei Bimru, Amen.
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 Amen. Thank you so much, friends, for joining us for this really very special week of practice together, your incredible devotion. Just a reminder that all the sessions we hold are recorded. The recordings are all posted on our YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed to that, or if you missed any sessions this week, if you'd like to revisit it, we'll be creating a playlist of just the 5 meditations from this week. So you want to continue to prepare for Pesach by immersing in this practice. Can't think of a better thing to do. You can even do it while you're cleaning or whatever you do to prepare for Pesach or cooking. And I'm also going to put, just for those who might be interested in just immersing in that beautiful new melody that Miriam composed for Bechol Dor Vador. We posted that just as a YouTube video, and you can listen to it there or watch it or sit with it there. And of course, also, in addition to thanking Kat for holding our space as always today, I want to thank Esther Sadie Brandon for sponsoring this practice and loving memory of your mom, Estelle Brandon. Zichrona Livracha, may her memory be a blessing always for you, Esther. Everyone's invited to stay on. If you have questions for Miriam, if you have just want to share reflections, or if you just would like to continue to sit with this community in this container of practice, we'll do this until about 1:30 Eastern. If you're leaving us now, I want to wish you a Shabbat Shalom. The Shabbat is a special Shabbat. It's the Shabbat before Passover, which in Jewish tradition is known as Shabbat Hagadol, the Great Shabbat. And so we want to wish you a sweet and restorative Shabbat. We hope to see you next week. A reminder that we'll be meeting live next week only on Monday and Tuesday, but we have 2 wonderful sessions lined up. Monday with Rabbi Miriam Neshama Weil, and on Tuesday with Yiska Smith, 2 just wonderful teachers. And also a reminder that this Sunday is the International Symposium on Jewish Meditation. I'll be teaching as part of that, and also our own beloved Rebecca Schisler will be teaching, as well as Rabbi Shula Weinberg and Rabbi Daniel Raphael Silverstein, and a lot of people who are familiar to those of you who have participated in our daily meditation. And hope you'll join us for that on Sunday as well. And with that, Miriam, come on in. I'll keep an eye on the chat for questions. I'm sure. Oh yeah, I thought this might provoke a lot of questions. So I'll kick it. I'm thinking I might just kick it off, Miriam, and I'll take a look also while you're answering, responding, unless you see something immediately that you want to respond to. But I just want to begin by just kind of underscoring or reviewing this stage of the whole process that you brought us so beautifully through all these different facets of the process of experiencing ourselves as if we were emerging from the narrow places. And today you lifted up the role of anger. And, this, of course, this is like part of the traditional Haggadah that has given people a lot of trouble. Contemporary Jews a lot of trouble. Don't want calling on God to pour out God's wrath. But it occurred to me that, maybe I missed it. Maybe you said something to this effect, but the imagery of the pouring out, I thought, went so beautifully with your teaching of acknowledging the reality of anger and honoring it, really honoring it. And that is the way in which to kind of rid ourselves of the toxic nature of it while preserving the holy essence that's underneath it in some way. So I really love, I'm grateful that our tradition uses that kind of language, pouring out, So I don't know, I wanted to see if you wanted to add anything to that or.
Beautiful. Thank you, Mark. I don't read that passage literally.
Mm-hmm.
Because yes, I think it's beautiful that it uses the term shvoch, pour out your wrath, but it also says pour it on them.
Right. Right.
I don't want to skip over that part.
Thank you.
But I want to read it through a very particular lens, through the lens of mindfulness that understands and experiences through our practice, not as an abstract idea, but when we sit with our experience, the divine is right here, is not some outside big person throwing lightning bolts on people who behave meanly or cruelly. But we have access to that divine nature, to the divine oneness in and through our own experience. And so as we've been moving through different difficult emotions, through grief and sadness, through pain and hurt, through fear, and today through anger, these emotions have deep intelligence to them as emotions, as part of being alive. So we're not looking to cut them off, but we're looking to connect with them through the lens of this divine loving awareness.
Mm-hmm.
So there's room for the pouring out to happen, but it's not blown through other people. It's not engaged in, submerged in the emotion, but we make space for that stability of loving awareness, of that expansiveness. So it allows the emotion to have its way. And like a child expressing anger and hurt and frustration and disappointment, we're not trying to change it and say, don't feel that way.
Right.
But gathering it in with love and patience and attention, and listening to what it is that it's expressing. I think right at its core, anger is saying, I need something. Or I see somebody else, I perceive somebody else who needs something and deserves what they're not getting. And that's, there's something really important in that. But we make a conscious choice not to act from that place. So when the pouring out can happen in the context of a lot of spaciousness and love, then we can hear our way into the wisdom of, okay, now I see what it's pointing to. I see the injustice out there, the hurt in here, and I can respond. I'm not reacting. I'm not, I can respond with wisdom.
Right. Not enslaved to the anger.
Exactly.
Well, as we know, I mean, in a way, like anger is also kind of a third rail, right? It's I remember reading once this piece by the novelist Mary Gordon, who kind of described it as like a snowball rolling downhill, that it has its own energy and momentum, that it can keep building on itself. So I guess I want to like to address the concerns that some people are raising, I guess also in the chat, but and which you in advance addressed by offering modifications for people. I mean, Pam is asking, it felt liberating to pour out my wrath, but it might not be so easy for everyone to stick the anger gin back in the genie back in the bottle. I guess it's genie. Especially concerned for people who might not be familiar with what to do when we're, feeling dysregulated and overwhelmed. So you did, like you gave a great caution and caveat before we did it. But I'm also thinking about like what you're describing of sort of having this container of loving awareness in which anger can have its say, right, and then move along. That if it's, that is so powerful that it can overwhelm that, I can like notice stuff getting triggered that is like more powerful than my capacity to hold it. So either, so it really goes to that question of, I think, how do we not get carried away with the anger once we open the door to it?
Really important. And that's why this is a practice. We're growing our capacity to be with difficult emotions and not run them at people or in harmful ways at ourselves. So we need to do it in the amount that we can handle at this particular moment. So, as we engage with it, we want to keep watching. So what's happening within? And bringing the awareness of, is this too much? Do I need to pull back a little bit? So that's the moment that we pause in the practice. We look around the space that we're in. We notice I'm safe. We notice I have agency. We notice, oh, I think I'm being triggered. There's a connection to old anger or fear or hurt that's really getting stirred. Okay, connection to grounding touch. Something like this is very helpful. Noticing pleasant or neutral sensations in the body, and come back to grounding. There's no rush in this work. It will only be effective to the extent that we can stay in that loving presence in relationship with ourselves. And that's a responsibility that we take on in doing this. And again, with so much kindness and love toward what we encounter here. So I think those pieces are helpful and important. And then when we're out in the world, because the whole point of sitting in practice is so that we can take it out into the world with us. When you notice a moment of getting angry and it feels explosive or it's hard to contain, or you turn it on yourself, or whatever have been the habits and conditioning, that's the moment where you again touch in. Ooh, wow, this is strong. Okay, look around and notice. Get grounded. Take a breath, move away from the situation. Find the ways to be able to have your own back, to support yourself in like this embrace of love. And actually, just this morning, I share a home with my sister and brother-in-law and two young nephews. And my 8-year-old nephew was so angry about something. And I could hear from downstairs, he was yelling and yelling. And my sister, who is so wise, was sitting on the couch across from him saying, keep telling me, like, this is the decision that I've made. This is the wise decision. I know you don't like it. Keep showing me how angry you are. She wasn't ruffled by it. She wasn't trying to quiet him or make him stop. Oh, wow, that's what we get to do for ourselves through that divine, expansive, loving awareness. It's right here that's available to us. Oh,
Oh. All right, Miriam, I think we are at time. And once again, just want to thank you for, I think it was a very, very special week for everyone who was able to join us this week and those who will benefit from joining us in the future and the recordings. And so thank you so much for all you've done this week. Beautiful teaching and for the daring today.
thank you so much, everyone. May it be a freeing, beautiful, joyous, and healthy Pesach.